Well, hello, and welcome back to Slippy-J Sunday. And today, I'm cheating, because I don't know where else to put these guys. I could do it on a standard TwoSun Tuesday, but it's probably not going to be kind of the same interest thing. Let me kind of explain a little bit of why. This is the TS241. It's one of a few from this particular designer, YX Designs, also known as Yon Xanadu. And yeah, this is a double-detent, so this is not a locking knife, even though it kind of sounds that way, but yeah. It's certainly not an absolutely new concept. We got some fidget factor going on there, where you can open and close that thing super quick when you're, bored and wanting to irritate coworkers and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, these things are, I guess, kind of jumping up a little bit in popularity. Kershaw had recently come out with one. Heck, if I can actually remember the name of it. But yeah. But yeah, this guy's pretty interesting. We can see that it's basically carbon fiber all the way around, and we have a couple of tiny liners. In this case, I do believe they're steel. But I could be wrong on that. All right, let me slide it off because, yeah. So I will definitely check that again. I know some of the newer ones are titanium liners, but I thought this one was steel. But yeah, this is basically like a 3.5 finger kind of knife. They have a little bit of a cutout there to let it sit on your pinky. So I do actually like that. They kind of understand that it's not going to be a full 4-finger knife. And because of that little notch there, it's just a little tiny bit more comfortable than it would otherwise be for us with the larger meat digits. So yeah, this one is kind of one of the first ones. It's an S90V. This S90V, it's not particularly fantastic. It's much better than that TS128. This is actually does a pretty darn good job at being a cutlery steel. So it's not incredibly soft, but yeah, it definitely doesn't live up to the S90V kind of namesake for holding an edge for a ridiculous amount of time. It'll hold it right around the same amount as 14C28N or D2. But yeah, I mean, S90V doesn't really have, the super crazy corrosion performance that M390 does. So yeah, it really doesn't particularly matter that it's S90V. It's just kind of a mid-grade kind of performer there. Yeah, the top flipper on this, I really do like the design. It's really easy to get to. I suppose you can reach way far forward on there and probably drop it in the process. But very, very comfortable to get to with the back jumping. I don't really feel like I slip off of it, even though the first time that I attempted to open it here on the top of the video, I did. But hey, that's just how it goes. You can also, decide you want to open it like a Bic lighter, if that's, a little bit more your style there. But yeah, I do like top flippers when they're done really, really well this way, because they're not sticking out, so it keeps the profile in your pocket, a lot better for you. I don't necessarily have the same problem that some other people do, where you have a flipper tab, and that apparently bashes up against absolutely everything all day. That doesn't necessarily bother me as much as it does on other people. But this is certainly one way to get around that. There are some other knives, especially like the Boker Bonfire, which is also kind of using a little bit of the same pattern as the Pena Top Flipper Trapper, and a couple others like that are kind of making that a little bit more popular. And those ones lock, whereas this one doesn't. But that's a little bit different topic. The blade has a nice contour there, so yeah, you got that. However, That's not going to save you. If this breaks, and it's quite easy to do so, it's going to come right down and get you. There's no full protection kind of going on from your fingers or anything like that. It does seem, at least to me, that seems to be a little bit more of a more modern concept to some of these kind of slip joint knives, and a lot of people who are still kind of looking a little bit more traditionally at it don't really think all that much about it. But yeah. So this is in the earlier camp where, you know, just watch your fingers while you're using it. This one does have a pretty radical clip point kind of thing. You know, it doesn't have a swedge sort of going on there, so it keeps it fairly thick at the tip, but that's kind of the whole vibe of the knife there. We also have a whole lot of length that's straight before we get to the belly out towards the tip, which is, I guess in a way, it actually reminds me a little bit more of the Mark II, you know, the USMC fighting knife. Just, you know, it's kind of like a hunting knife with a little skinning sort of thing on there. But, yeah, so it's a little interesting that we have a little bit more flat kind of going on there. Makes that a little bit easier if you are trying to do push cuts through, you know, something like thicker cardboard or something like that. You don't have to worry so much about, you know, a little bit of belly trying to slip or push your hands one way or the other or something like that. But yeah, we can see that the backspacer on this is basically integral. My particular one has just a little tiny hint of opening here at the front. But, you know, pretty much for the most part, the fit and finish on this is perfectly fine. Now, this isn't obviously patterned carbon fiber. It's not weave or anything like that. This is just basically layers, which, you know, it's still just as strong, or just strong enough, I suppose, because weave does add a little bit more strength to it. But, yeah. Can't really get to the blade in there. It does look pretty close, but, you know, it's not a super wide open area, so you should be pretty darn safe from that, especially because this guy sits in your pocket. But, yeah, well, here. I will go ahead and do some measurements on this thing, and then I'm going to pop it open so we can kind of take a look on the inside. See how they do these double-detent knives. So, all right. 1.88 ounce, or a little more than 53 grams. So, quite light. We got, yeah, 4.4 inches, so less than a half an inch. That's nice. So 0.44. All right, how about the blade length on this one? This one's a little longer than some of the others that they have done. But yeah, just shy of 2.7 inches. So yeah, this one's fairly large. You know, you can attempt to sneak forward, I guess, a little bit, but that is just, as far as I'm concerned, more of a sharpening choil, not a finger choil. So there you go with that. And blade stock thickness. We got basically 3.55 millimeters. So maybe not the absolute sliceiest thing in the known universe, but it is very much a high flat grind and does come down to a pretty darn nice and thin behind the edge. Maybe not the absolute thinnest that TwoSun has ever had on a grind for a knife, but pretty darn good. Alright, so yeah, you can see we got all sorts of screws going on here, and it happens on both sides. but that's perfectly fine. We can deal with that. So, first off, I probably, yep, right off the bat, going on the wrong side. But that might have also been me putting it back together a little bit different than it first came together. So, can't rule that one out. But yeah, we can take basically the top two back here and this one off. And that will actually let us get into the knife. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to remove these this backspacer because it's integral to it, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, we can see we have our little detent sort of things kind of going on here. Now we do have washers that it are riding on. That does obviously in this particular instance tell me that these are indeed titanium and not steel like I had first thought. Yeah, obviously the washer is steel. So yeah, there's certainly that. So yeah, each of them are held with 3 screws. I do believe these are T6. Yes, they are T6, not T8. It's just kind of a design choice, I suppose. And these are very much nested in the carbon fiber. So that's it does do a pretty darn good job of kind of keeping the thinness down. You could probably get a little bit more by making the blade a little less, thinner than it generally is. Alright, so we do have a blade stop pin that sits here that rides inside the blade. And we have this detent hole. And we also have 2 on this side. And that's because it uses 2 in the open position and 1 to keep it closed. That's pretty much due to you don't want too much pressure for the detent when you're trying to do a top flipper because that can make it very difficult to actually open. So you can certainly keep that in mind. Yeah. At some point here, I do actually want to adjust this so it has a bit more retention while it's open. So I will probably poke around at that a little bit later. For that, I would basically take these liners out here, make sure I'm holding it at the fulcrum where I actually want to bend it, and bend that guy up. Now on this one in particular, it really depends on kind of the orientation of the blade. And I would want to probably try this one first, because this one will only affect it in the open state, whereas this one will affect it in both the open and closed states, which can make it a little bit more difficult to actually open it up. So yeah. That's kind of my thought process with that one. So yeah, they are pretty interesting designs. Now that I've lost my pivot, there we are. Like I said, this is not the only one that has been done. At this point that I'm making this review, Yon Xanadu has made 3 different double-detent knives for TwoSun. They've also created 1 or 2 others that were double-detents that TwoSun didn't make, and unfortunately, I do have at least 1 of those. The hardware on it really sucks, so I was able to get it back together once. And now I'm having problems with screws being stripped out and whatnot. So, yeah, unfortunately, I would say if you are looking for a double detent from Yon Xanadu, And they do make some pretty interesting designs. The TwoSuns are probably going to be your best bet for quality. Come on, buddy, get back up in there. All right. Oh yeah, I actually need to pay attention to where that pivot is pointing on this particular. Yeah, get out of the way. Okay, it is facing at least the right way, so that's nice. You always want to make sure when you're putting these things back together that you look for the side of the washer that has already had some bearing scrape, I guess you would say, or, you know, that it actually looks like it has a track pattern sort of going on there. Because, yeah, you'll swap it over to the other side, and that side's not nearly as polished. And because of that, you're ended up at square one with the whole, with the whole idea of getting the action nice again. That bottom one there, as I didn't mention earlier, is there for lanyard purposes. So there you go. For you know, the few lanyard people who are left for the folding knife world, you are good. Yeah, it's super nice and yeah, it's back together. Okay. I thought maybe there was a little bit more of a gap there than I thought, but hey, absolutely no blade play. So that actually was completely in line with what it should be. All right, yeah. So another kind of longer one. I don't necessarily know if people will be a little bit more interested or less interested in kind of doing a little bit longer videos on these slip joints. Quite a few of them I have basically taken, 5 or 6 minutes for them, but obviously this one went a little bit longer. A lot of times that does happen when, you do some disassembly and whatnot. But there you go. Yeah, let me know whether you like it, not like it, if you've actually made it this far in the video. Who knows? Sometimes it happens. A lot of times it probably doesn't. And, yep, no blames going anywhere on my direction. So, all right. Anyway, I appreciate y'all for watching. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. And let me know and subscribe, please.